It was on September 29, 82. A 12-year-old girl named Mary Kellerman, who lived in Illinois, took this medicine. Tylenol, which we usually take for a headache, and what happened to her? She mysteriously died. Shortly thereafter, a guy named Adam, also a resident of Illinois, unexpectedly passed away. Those were just the first 2 deaths in the still unsolved murders involving the drug. During 3 days, 7 people died in the Chicagoland area of Illinois. Ultimately, authorities discovered that the pills contained potassium cyanide, and while reporters and investigators offered their guesses as to who poisoned the over-the-counter pain medication and how they did it, the murders remained unsolved. On the morning of September 29, 1982, around 6 a.m., a little girl named Mary Kellerman, age 12, complained to her parents about a sore throat and phlegm. Her parents gave her this medicine, Tylenol, which is normally used for headaches and fevers, but, unfortunately, at 7 a.m., the little girl died. Later, that same day, a man named Adam Jana suffered a heart attack after taking a Tylenol too. After Mary and Adam's deaths, several other Illinois citizens fell victim to the drug, although the cause of death was unknown at the time. Several people died. A woman just simply passed out after she took a Tylenol to ease her postpartum pain. A flight attendant who bought Tylenol because of some pain she felt after landing at the airport. After so many people died associated with this medicine, a nurse named Ellen was the first to make connections between deaths. She broke the profession's protocol and went to the home of a family that had almost all died because of the medicine. She found the bottle and counted the pills. When she counted them, she found 6 capsules missing, and there were 3 people dead. Police were then able to identify that the Tylenol tablets had been mixed with potassium cyanide, a powerful and highly toxic chemical compound that causes a quick and discreet death. The containers had an almond smell, which is a telltale sign of poison. On October 8, 1982, the New York Times reported that a handwritten letter reached the headquarters of Johnson & Johnson, creators of Tylenol. The note detailed how easy and cheap it was to get cyanide into the capsules and pills, and the author implied that the murders would continue if he didn't get $1 million. Johnson & Johnson immediately notified authorities, who later discovered the source of the letter. In October 1983, about a year after the attacks, James Lewis was convicted of extortion and sentenced to 20 years in prison. He is still a suspect in the murders, but has never been charged due to lack of evidence. The prime suspect was James Lewis, a Kansas City accountant who wrote the extortion note for Johnson & Johnson. He denied participation in the poisonings, and the police were unsuccessful in their attempts to gather enough evidence to arrest him. He remains as one of those involved in the case, and his assets were reviewed in 2009, when the investigation was resumed. In 2000, a newspaper profiled Lewis in detail, claiming he was a political prisoner, just a scapegoat, and he was not who the police were really looking for. In later years of the investigation, even a guy named Ted Kaczynski, aka the Unabomber, was considered a suspect. Ted had a long history of killing random citizens in the vicinity of his parents' house with poison, and a suspiciously very blurred photo indicated that he might be responsible for the crimes. A timeline was then created by cyber detectives, showing that he was likely in the area at this time. Ted Kaczynski's last statements may also have referenced his intention to poison Tylenol when he stated the following. Imagine a society that subjects people to conditions that make them terribly unhappy and then gives them drugs to end their unhappiness. Kaczynski was not eliminated from the suspect list in 2011. The FBI requested his DNA sample, as they wanted to test it and compare it with traces of DNA left on the poison vials. Within days of the death of little girl Mary Kellerman on September 29, 1982, authorities and the media warned the mass public about potentially lethal pills. Police officers went door to door collecting bottles and pills of the over-the-counter pain reliever and drove through the streets to alert residents via loudspeakers. While these efforts may have helped locally, they eventually inspired a series of copycat criminals as well. Just 1 month after the initial poisonings, the FDA and FBI detected nearly 270 different cases of drug adulterations. There were copycat crimes even years later. In 1986, Seattle residents Susan and Bruce died from paracetamol mixed with cyanide. Authorities discovered that several pills throughout the area contained cyanide, and another investigation was launched. Ultimately, it was revealed that Bruce's own daughter, Stella, had poisoned the drug in an attempt to get her life insurance money. Johnson & Johnson's reaction was quick. They communicated the situation to the media and issued a mass recall. Over 31 million packets of the medicine were pulled from shelves, and additional contaminated capsules were found in the Chicago area, but luckily they got caught up before they were consumed. The subsidiary responsible for manufacturing Tylenol, McNeil Consumer Products, also offered to replace the pills consumers had purchased. Johnson & Johnson then offered a $100,000 reward for information that led to the arrest of the criminal. The speed with which Johnson & Johnson reacted to these tragedies is seen as an excellent form of crisis management. The case is still studied in communication strategy courses. To help with the product's reputation, which was then damaged, the company created new inviolable packaging, both for the containers and for the pills as well. Johnson & Johnson's reputation skyrocketed as a result of these efforts. Tylenol sales skyrocketed too, making it the #1 over-the-counter pain reliever in the world. Prior to 1983, tampering with a product was not a federal crime. In 1983, Congress passed a law called the Tylenol Bill, which made tampering with consumer products a federal crime. Investigators believed the pills were tampered with after they hit store shelves. The pills were manufactured in different factories and distributed in different drugstores in Chicago. The initial investigation revealed that the pills were being criminally altered at the store level. They were being poisoned in the store itself, or they were bought, modified and then returned. An investigative task force of 140 people was created to deal with this case. Throughout the investigation, 15,000 documents were gathered and investigated, and 400 interviews were conducted. Despite a thorough investigation, the mystery of who put the poison in those pills was never solved.